All right, so we got a Whirlpool. This is the serving drawer. So it has literally 4 doors, 2 up top, the serving drawer, and then the freezer at the bottom. So the issue with this unit was the fresh food section was not cold enough. And you can verify that at any time just by putting your hand up top, and you will feel airflow. If you can't hear the fan blowing, there's a good chance that your fan is not working. And I'll show you how to check all that. So you need to remove the serving drawer. Once you have removed that, you're able to remove the evaporator cover. Now, you can remove the evaporator cover without dismantling the entire unit. Now, what I'm doing here now, I'm actually making room to pull the top baffle or the top piece there forward, and now we are actually prying, but slowly. Now, this particular job was I had to go out to diagnose, and I put the unit together and taking it back apart again. So I might include both removal of the evaporator cover because they're both beneficial. The first portion of the removal required 2 screws to be removed from the evaporator cover. So as of right now, when you see this, probably it's just going to be the removing of the cover without the screws. So towards the end, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm just overing it right now. So I might include that. So right now we're removing the door. You do need to remove the door, a couple tabs, remove the connector, and you're going to have 2 1/4-inch screws on the door, and then you're going to have 2 at the bottom. The 2 on the top of the door, or the drawer, you don't fully remove. You want to leave those in. Remove the ones at the bottom fully, and then you just loosen the ones up top. And then once the connection and everything's loosed and removed, you can just lift the door or the drawer up and off. There you go. Now, this will give you access to be able to remove the evaporator cover. Now, you will need basically a flat blade screwdriver, and I think I also used a needle nose pliers, but the pliers was not used for its intended purpose. Basically, it was fat enough to get under to allow the tabs. Now, to be honest, you're going to have 2 tabs on the cover itself, and they stick up quite a bit. The older models, Whirlpool refrigerators, they had 2 screws under those tabs and can be somewhat difficult to remove. In the first clip, I did remove them, and I'm hoping to include that in this so that at least if you have to do that, you will know what to do. But I think in this one, the screws were already out since this was my second visit. Now, during reinstallation, I don't recommend you put those screws back. You can if you want. It is not recommended. In fact, the newer models, Whirlpool, don't even put the screws in. I think the tab or the tabs are missing. Don't quote me. And if you can see, the tabs weren't broken. If you're careful, you can get them out without damaging. But if you do break them, don't sweat it. You should be totally fine. So we're putting this unit now in run, which is going to run the compressor. It's going to run the damper, and we're checking to see if the fan is moving. As you can see, the fan has no rotation, no movement. Now you can see there's a lot of frost built up on that evaporator, and at first glance you will think, oh, there must be a defrost issue. Now, the issue with the fan moving air across the evaporator, it plays a very important role. In fact, you may call it a defroster in itself. the fan moves warm air from the food, and as that warm air is pulled through the evaporator, it melts some of the ice that is forming, and some of the moisture is built up. And as the warm air is passed through, the air is cooled, and then the circle continues. So that is how you get your cold. So we're plugging in the new fan right now. Take a look. So what you want to do before you actually put it together and all that stuff, go ahead and plug your new fan in just to verify that you do have power. Now, let's say you don't have power going to the fan, or you don't have a fan, to verify that the fan is, not getting power, or the fan is getting power. You want to verify that before you actually go out and replace the fan. You might have a board issue as well. But you can use a non-contact voltage tester like this guy. It tells you that there's power in the line. Now we're going to unplug just to confirm that it was reading power. That tells you that the board is supplying voltage, which is, I think, 14 volts DC. So as you can see, the evaporator was free, and now I'm defrosting it. So because these were two different clips I included, so I just wanted to include that so that you don't get confused on what I'm doing. So super, super important. When you get your new fan, make sure that you defrost the unit. If you do not, you're going to have issues because the fridge will not cool properly. I already explained the process of the fan, how it pulls the air across the evaporator. Towards the end, I will show you how it moves the air, and pay attention to how you remove your old fan. If you put it incorrectly, which you can, your fridge will not cool at all. So pay attention, defrost it properly so the fridge will have a chance to start to do its job. All right, so I'm going to just let this play. I will jump back in as needed. Right now we are removing the old fan, and I want to touch on this real quick. Your thermistor, the gold one, once you install that, you want to make sure that the thermistor black wire, I will show it after I install it, but I want you to pay attention. Once you do the installation part and the thermistor is attached to the evaporator, you want to make sure that the wire itself is facing where moisture will not travel up the wire. It should go away from the thermistor, meaning the wires that go into the thermistor, you don't want moisture to follow those wires into it. So, in fact, even some GEs, that's their recommendation, meaning you want to mitigate any moisture intrusion going into the thermistor itself. So, pay attention to how the wires are. Now, to remove these are nothing more than, you may say, rubber keepers, you may call them, whatever they're called. I'm not even sure, to be honest. But they do have a fat head, and you literally pull it through and it holds in just fine. So it's nothing major, so pretty straightforward. Just be super careful as you pull them out. You don't want to be too, crazy, because if you break those off, you will have problems. Pay attention to how you remove the fan. You pull down once they're out, reinstall that rubber grommet, and make sure you get the new fan back in the same order. you're going to have tabs. Again, pay attention. If you accidentally install your fan upside down, your fridge will not cool. So be careful. I've gone on calls and fridge is not cooling. Fan was still good, but it was upside down. So be careful. All right, you're going to have that white foam. Go ahead and be careful with it. Put it back on. It ripped on me. Normally I could have sworn they should have had some supply with the fan, but that keeps the fan pushed firmly against the back wall and also keeps the air from escaping when the fan is pulling. So it's there for a reason. Also reduces vibration. So put it back on. If you have to tape it with some good tape. Somebody's here. Was he the blind one or the deaf one? I thought, unless that was another customer's dog. All right, so now we have the front in. We're going to be using needle nose pliers to finish up in the back. It's rather hard to get your hand back there, so needle nose works perfectly. Now be gentle, don't yank. Slowly, easy does it, perfect. Now we're going to be routing our fan wire, carefully, just like we did it or how it was originally installed. Be super careful, and once you get to the thermistor, I'll explain a little bit about that. All right, so this part is when you want to take your time to get the fan wire, get everything tucked just the way as it was. And you have to go behind the capillary tube, get it all tucked. Don't forget to put your thermistor through that hole. And now the other sensor for your defrost, that goes on the evaporator. You want to make sure that I think I mentioned this already, but now that we're doing it, it might be more relevant. The direction of the wire going into the thermistor or the sensor, make sure you point it down so that the moisture, any kind of possibility of migration, no moisture can travel into the thermistor from the wire. Even though it's sealed, you gotta remember it's always cold and then it gets hot. So you want to make sure that you mitigate any potential, as I'm showing here, in that direction, moisture can travel. So what you want to do, you want to have it where moisture cannot go upwards. So, all right, that's just a little tad bit of info. All right. I'm going to put the cover back on. Now, to get the cover on, it's pretty straightforward. You'll see you're going to have 4 screws, but we're not going to put all 4 in. The hidden screws, you don't have to put those in. I mentioned that already, so just be mindful, be careful. If those tabs up top, if they're broken, don't worry about it. The 2 main screws are the ones in the center of the evaporator cover. Plenty strong, and you'll be totally fine. All right, so follow along, and then after I'll jump back in. We're going to be using the feather. I will explain to you what's going on with the feather. So this part of the evaporator cover installation gets a little tricky. I'm using a needle nose pliers just because it has a lot of leverage to it, and it helps you to get the tabs under so you don't break them off. Now, if you break them, you're totally fine, but you do need some leverage. Now, the air tower or the damper tower, that piece that's above the evaporator cover, it slides up slightly, not a lot of give. So with the needle nose pliers, you're able to actually push, and as you push it up, you can push the cover under, and you can get the tabs under without actually breaking them. So I don't like to break anything, and you can do the same. Just be careful. There we go. Now, once you have everything seated nicely, go down below and make sure that the base also is flush with the drain pan. And sometimes if it's not, once you put the first screw in, you will notice that it pulls it up closer. So be mindful of that as you screw it up together. I'm going to just put the 2 screws in. Those are the 2 main ones. All right, it's time to put the door on. We're going to be getting the door ready, and you're going to have 2 screws. You're going to set the 2 screws, the heads of the screws, and set the door down. Now you want to secure the other 2 screws, which is going to hold the door on. There we go. Now you can use your power tool, but if you're not careful, you don't want to do any damage. So use a manual to be on the safe side. Get your connector cover, and you're good to go. Time to close the door. And now we're going to be doing the feather. I want to explain to you what it does and what is going on. All right, don't forget the thermistor. It snaps in. There we go. All right, so here we are with the fan and the feather. As you can see, the fan is blowing. It's literally sucking and pushing the air up. So to check your installation, you can just reach your hand up there and feel for air. That means the fan is working. Now we're going to go down low, and you'll see the fan. As you can see, it is pulling. So the fan is installed correctly, and it's pulling the air across the evaporator. All right, that's how it should be. Thanks for watching.